I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Well, all of the Christmases over the years have been a lot different, haven't they? When you think of the first Christmas that you had as a child, and then your own children and their Christmases, and now 2011 and your grandchildren.
Yes, well, being wartime, baby, we didn't have expensive toys. We made do with things we made ourselves. Wooden blocks and broomsticks and things.
You're right, the very first toys I remember were unpainted wooden blocks. And they belonged to my cousin or someone else before them. They were incredibly smooth, and as well as square ones and rectangles, there were arches and slides and parapets. I had a set of soldiers that had been in the family forever, all handed down. Toys, especially for small children, didn't actually do anything. There was no remote control. There were no battery operated. The only thing was wind-up, either steam trains, wind-up cars, or the bigger kids, or the kids up the street who were doing perhaps better than you, had electric train sets.
Oh, yes, that's big time.
And they said, really, they are smooth. You don't have to stop them and wind them up. They go forever.
Well, of course, this is in the days before plastic, so everything was made of lead or steel.
Well, you're right. I had a Roy Rogers gun when I was 7. I was convinced the handle was real silver, even when it began to chip. But the best thing was that it was a cap gun with big-sized caps, and they made a terrific bang and actually smoked. I remember holding it in front of me, just watching that smoke waft. Caps were always getting stuck, and you had to adjust the roll in the gun, didn't you?
Yes, you did.
Because sometimes they were fizzers. You'd pull the trigger.
Hear nothing, yeah.
Oh, the blaster thing, and then you'd have to get the roll up.
Yeah, did you have a potato gun where you stuck the nozzle into a potato and made a popping sound?
They were very... Then we got dolls, and by the time I was 3, they were putrid. Rag dolls. My grandmother used to give me peg dolls made out of old-fashioned wooden pegs that weren't exactly cuddly.
You were a bit of a tomboy, weren't you?
The first proper doll I got was real nylon. Eyes open and closed, and actually said "Mama." I gave her a bath, and she never said "Mama" again, or opened her eyes. I felt like I'd murdered her.
Bruce was 14 at the time.
I had a doll called Rosebud. It had plastic hair, but I thought she was wonderful. I used to drag it around behind me, so she ended up with a snub nose.
Well, my sister had a gollywog dog, which today wouldn't be politically correct, would it?
My grandmother used to make me dolls' clothes. She'd sat on the porch knitting and threading ribbons. She needs a new cardigan, she'd say. 2 hours later, the doll would have a new cardi.
Gee, you just missed out on being a punce.
Oh, no, you couldn't say that.
No, but luckily you did miss out. I mean, play with dolls and things.
I could still develop a punce-ish attitude.
Not being a grandfather of 8, I think it's a bit late.
But let's talk to our mates. Let's talk to John Mangos, who has the real spirit of Christmas. Even at Easter, he exudes goodwill and happiness.
Hi, John.
Hello, fellas. You guys sound a lot older than me.
John, tell us about your Christmas.
Well, interesting hearing you talking about those dolls, because my earliest memory is getting a Jerry G doll.
Yes.
And that's very Melbourne, isn't it?
Oh, certainly.
Because I don't know that Jerry was known that much outside of Melbourne.
No, you're right. Ron Blaskett and Joe G worked for Channel 9 Melbourne solely, yes.
And it was the Tarak show, and I still had him. My mum, after letting me play with him for about half an hour, disappeared him for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
And now he's in pristine condition, and probably worth a fortune.
Did you like being a vent? I mean, did you ever think you want to become a magician or something?
Oh, look, I think because of Jerry, we all played around with ventriloquism in those days. We all tried to throw our voice just to be like Jerry, because he was so iconic in Melbourne in the late 50s, early 60s.
Sure. To me, when Punch and Judy show's boring.
Oh, to me, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's that going to do with Jerry?
Oh, well, we're talking about vents and puppet dolls and things.
By comparison, absolutely. Then Thunderbirds came along, and they were quite fun because they did groovy things like flying rocket.
What about Christmas dinner? What did you have that's different? Did you have any special meals?
Well, Bruce, oddly enough, being from a Greek family who had a cafe on Elizabeth Street near the corner of Latrobe Street in central Melbourne, we had the very traditional Aussie Christmas meals. We did the turkey and the ham.
Yeah.
And that was very much a part of the go. And remember, of course, that we were in those days considered, and here's a quaint expression you probably haven't heard for ages, you Australians.
Yes.
The object was to assimilate as quickly as possible in my mum and dad's minds, and so we were very Aussie in our upbringing.
Now, John Mangos, from a Greek culture, can you remember, or indeed tell us what Christmas Day, if there is any, in Greece? Do they have the ham and...
Well, they do. They do nowadays have what we would call the traditional. That they love a turkey. I'm not quite sure. I think they still do the ham. I'm not quite sure about the ham, but certainly the turkey. And don't forget, of course, it's winter time in Greece, as it is in all of Europe, and so they have the lovely dress up in your warm clothes, wintry Christmas, as it sort of traditionally should be.
And what would you be drinking on Christmas Day there?
Everything. Well, Greeks love a little ouzo, as you know.
Oh, yes.
And it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's certainly mine. Ouzo is an aperitif. It's meant to be drunk before the meal to stimulate one's appetite. Did you know that?
No, not being an ouzo man myself.
And some of us have appetites that can just never be gratified.
Yeah.
So we keep drinking.
And now, in most of Europe, Christmas Eve is more important than Christmas Day itself. Is that true in Greece?
Yes, it is. Yeah, no, it's the whole St. Nicholas thing, and really Christmas is all about Christmas Eve rather than Christmas Day. And most traditional Greek Orthodox families would go to church on Christmas Eve and celebrate Christmas, not unlike they do at Easter time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about Christmas Eve more than it is Christmas Day.
And talk about present swapping. What sort of gifts you'd give each other?
Oh, the same toys and things, yeah. And don't forget, guys, there are two Orthodox Christmases. The Greek Orthodoxes celebrate on the 25th of December, like everybody else. But some of the other Orthodox churches, like Serbian and Russian, celebrate on the 6th of January.
That's right, 2 weeks later, yes.
Yes.
And occasionally they coincide and it's the same date.
No, Christmas is always different. Occasionally Easter coincides, and they're on the same day.
Oh, okay, well, I've learned something.
Yeah, look, I won't go into all of the details, but if you want to Google your Julian and your Gregorian calendars, you'll learn all about it.
Yeah. So what's Christmas this year? Do you go on holidays?
Well, I've now got 2 little boys, and so I've gone to being the parent at Christmas.
Yes.
So Santa is going to come and deliver lots of presents to my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old.
Oh, they'll love it.
And they will love it. And so I've, in many ways, rediscovered Christmas through the eyes of my kids.
Oh, you will, and you'll love it even more so.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, John, we wish you... What are you doing with yourself these days?
Well, thank you for asking. Not nearly enough.
No.
I've just done a stint with SBS, and I'm about to do a stint over the summer with Channel 7, where I'll be reading their morning and afternoon news. And who knows what will happen after that, but hopefully you'll see my smiling face over the summertime if you tune in and watch 7 News.
I couldn't believe that story and the events that took place in your career of,
yes, I know. Well, thank you
earlier this year. I just couldn't believe it.
We don't need to linger on it, but thank you for saying that, and that was the general sentiment. It seemed a bit odd to a lot of people, but what happened has happened, and we've moved on as we do in the business, and that's the way it goes.
Good on you, John.
And of course, as you'd agree, Graham Kennedy said a lot more outrageous things than you did.
Well, not just Graham, a lot of other people. Speaking of Graham, I did spend many a Christmas with him as orphans. When I moved to Sydney, he and I were, as you know, good buddies, and we used to go down to the Highlands together and spend an orphan's Christmas with Nolene Brown and her husband Tony Sattler.
Oh, yes, down Barrel, yeah.
Yeah, and we had many a wonderful Christmas there with those guys.
All right. Well,
yeah.
It's just as wonderful with your 2 children, even perhaps more rewarding. And good luck for the year ahead, John.
Look, thank you, boys, and it's always lovely to talk to you, and thanks for thinking of me this Christmas.
All right, John.
And my boys Costa and Apollo
isn't that beautiful?
will love knowing they've been on your show.
Costa and Apollo.
Yes.
Beautiful names.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you, John, so very much.